No one was supposed to find them. These tribes have been sealed off from the world so long they stopped resembling humans. Governments sent soldiers to end them, and the soldiers never came back. Some of these tribes guard mysterious creatures that made witnesses lose their minds on the spot. From 3 apple-sized faces blinking from a strangler fig to this 4-foot figure with dead eyes feeding a bewitched pig, what you are about to see will crawl under your skin and stay there. Nasara Ritual. Step into the wrong place at the wrong time on a remote island in Vanuatu, and you are not getting a warning. You're getting killed. Village elders once gave certain men full authority to strike down any outsider who wandered into their sacred ritual uninvited. And that rule was still active as recently as the 1980s. Now look at this footage. These men covered completely in white are not performing for you. You were never supposed to see this. A trader named Brett, who works regularly in the area, said it plainly. People on neighboring islands have almost never seen a foreigner. Very few outsiders have ever stood on this ground. That ground is called the Nasara. It is where men earn power, publicly, violently, irreversibly. To climb the social and spiritual ladder here, a man must organize a full public ceremony, sacrifice a significant number of pigs, and distribute wealth across the entire community. Every grade he earns gives him more authority among the living and higher status among the dead. And that white paint covering every inch of his body? Not decoration, not costume. In Ni Vanuatu belief, white is the color of the ancestor world. When a man covers himself completely, he is turning his own body into a vessel. His ancestors enter him and perform the ceremony through him. Every stomp on that ground is a direct call to them. The harder he stomps, the stronger they answer. Then it gets darker. On nearby Ambrim Island, men wear 2-faced masks that pull the spirit of a dead relative, usually their own grandfather, directly into their body. Once that mask goes on, there is no turning back. They are handed a club. Dozens of pigs are lined up, and they must walk up to every single one and beat it to death personally, skull by skull. One after another without stopping. The ground turns red. The crowd watches every single strike. If the man slows down even once, if his arm hesitates for even one pig, his grade is stripped from him permanently. Right there in the blood and the noise in front of everyone he has ever known. And the moment it ends, the mask must be burned immediately. Because if it is not burned, whatever enters them does not leave. But the most unsettling part is not the violence. Vanuatu has over 100 distinct languages for a population of just 300,000 people. In the most isolated northern islands, some languages have fewer than 200 living speakers left. When the last speaker dies, the words used to call the ancestors are gone forever. Linguists have already found villages where the ceremony is still being performed exactly as it always was. The stomping still happens. The chants still go out. But the men saying the words no longer understand them. They are calling their ancestors into their own bodies, without knowing whose names they are saying. Ainawen Nawe. These people made first contact with the outside world in 1974. Then by 1976, entire villages were gone. Not from war, not from violence, from the flu, from measles, diseases so ordinary to us we forget they exist. But the Ainawen Nawe of Mato Grosso, Brazil had zero immunity to any of it. Within 2 years of meeting outsiders for the very first time, they had lost nearly a third of their entire population. Some villages were completely wiped out. The survivors rebuilt from almost nothing. And through all of it, the one thing they never let go was the Yakwa ritual. They genuinely believed it was the only thing keeping them alive. Here is what the Yakwa actually requires. Every year, when heavy clouds cover the Serra do Norte hills, the entire village moves to the Rio Preto and builds river dams by hand. No nails, no cement, nothing but crossed logs and cone-shaped wooden funnels placed in the water. Water flows through the funnels freely. Fish cannot get through and collect behind the dam. Those fish are caught, smoked in a dedicated smokehouse, and formally delivered to the Yakariti spirits as payment. In Ainawen Nawe belief, that payment is what holds the world together. Stop the payment and the world breaks down. Then at the end of the season, they tear the entire dam down themselves so the fish can swim upstream and breed. They destroy weeks of communal labor on purpose so the river can complete its own cycle. Now here is what the Yakariti spirits actually are. They are dangerous, hungry entities that must be fed correctly and continuously. If the ritual is disrupted, the Yakariti send disease and death directly into the village as punishment. When missionaries disrupted the ceremony during early contact, people died. The community traced every single death back to the spirits not receiving their payment. And then it gets brutal. In 2015, the Anawene Nawe went to court and got a legal order stopping the government from building permanent hydroelectric dams on the Juruena River. The court issued the order. Construction continued anyway. Those dams changed the river flow so severely that the fish populations the ritual depends on collapsed completely in several tributaries. The Anawene Nawe were now being forced to perform a ritual for spirits they could no longer feed. Their entire belief system has no answer for that situation. Bull jumping ceremony. Before we talk about the boy running across cattle, let us talk about these women lining up and begging to be whipped at bull jumping ceremonies. The Hamar of Ethiopia's Omo Valley have built everything around cattle. Cattle are currency, marriage agreements, and the measure of a family's entire history. The massive bullhorn headdresses the men wear during the ceremony are not costumes. Wearing the horns publicly means taking on the bull's qualities. Its patience, its endurance, its ability to carry weight without breaking. But before any boy gets near those cattle, his female relatives must do something genuinely shocking. They must walk into the crowd and ask for the whip. His sisters, his mother, his female cousins. They walk directly up to the male elders and request to be flogged across their bare backs with thin birch switches. They initiate it every single time. The scars those switches leave are permanent. Hamar women carry them for life. A woman covered in scars has publicly stood for her male relatives across many ceremonies over many years. Those scars tell the entire community exactly what she has done and who she stood for. A woman without scars has no standing in disputes and almost no marriage prospects. Those scars are her entire social record written directly onto her skin. Now the boy steps up. The cattle are lined up side by side in a single row, packed tightly together. The boy has to run across their backs, stepping from one animal to the next, all the way to the end without falling. No rope, no support, just his feet on the backs of moving animals. If he slips off, if a cow shifts and throws him, if he cannot make it to the end, the consequences follow him permanently. He cannot marry. He cannot own cattle. In documented cases, he is expelled from the community entirely. No second attempt. Anthropologists have recorded young men who chose suicide after a failed bull jump rather than live with what came after. The cattle are specifically selected and positioned to make the run as difficult as possible. And now it gets worse. The Jibe 3 Dam on the Omo River destroyed the natural flood cycle the Hamar depended on for grazing land and crops. Cattle herds have shrunk badly. The bride price system built entirely on cattle has collapsed in several villages because young men can no longer accumulate what they need to marry. The bull jump still happens, but the life it was supposed to unlock at the end of that run is disappearing underneath it. Mundari, ash, and cattle. In South Sudan, destroying a man's cattle is considered worse than killing him. Killing him ends his life. Destroying his cattle erases his name, removes his identity, severs his connection to his ancestors, and takes away everything his children were supposed to inherit. The Mundari people of South Sudan do not simply own animals. A Mundari man picks his best ox during adolescence and permanently takes that animal's name as his own identity. His birth name fades. The community knows him by his ox from that point forward. When the ox dies, he mourns it the exact same way he would mourn a close family member. Public wailing, fasting, deliberate scarification of his own body. That single fact explains why cattle raiding kills between 2,000 and 4,000 people every single year in South Sudan. Young men go out with AK-47s and fight for cattle because without cattle you cannot choose an ox. Without an ox you cannot take its name. And without that name, you have no recognized identity in Mundari society. You are not yet fully a person. Now here is what outsiders notice first. Every morning, without exception, Mundari men cover their entire bodies in ash from burned cow dung. In 110-degree heat with no pharmacy within 200 miles, that ash blocks the sun, repels insects, and acts as antiseptic on the skin simultaneously. They also wash themselves in cow urine. The ammonia kills bacteria and bleaches their hair to a deep burnt orange. And that is still not the most extreme part. During male initiation, boys are required to drink fresh cow urine as a formal step into manhood. The ammonia is high enough to cause vomiting in most cases. Boys who vomit are not permitted to stop. They complete it regardless. Now, here's what governments did with this. South Sudan's civil war specifically targeted Mundari cattle camps as military objectives to collapse the entire social structure by destroying its foundation. Human Rights Watch documented communities where full generations of young men were left with no cattle, no ox name, no identity, and no future. In Mundari terms, that is the complete erasure of a human being. The Baka. The Baka people of the Congo Basin are currently being beaten, tortured, and in at least one documented case killed by armed rangers. And the funding for those rangers comes directly from major international environmental organizations that created national parks across Cameroon and the Republic of Congo. Creating those parks required forcibly removing Baka communities from forest land their families had lived on for thousands of years. The Baka are now legally banned from hunting in territories their ancestors depended on entirely. Rangers enforcing those bans have been documented physically brutalizing Baka men found hunting. The organizations involved have faced almost no consequences. This is the community where this clip you are about to see comes from. At 4:44 in the morning, deep in that same Congo basin, layered voices rise out of complete darkness. No drums, no single leader, just women singing together while they dig roots and tubers out of the forest floor for food. A 2-year study from Leiden University found something specific about this singing. The Baka sing more complex layered music when gathering food alongside people from outside their group than when they are with their own. The more unfamiliar and potentially dangerous the situation is, the more complex and layered the singing becomes. Because the singing is not for enjoyment. It is a signal sent out to every person and every living thing in the surrounding forest. It says, "We are here. We are not hiding, and we mean no harm." Music as a warning system. Music as a peace treaty. The Baka people call the forest Jengi. They believe it is a living parent that feeds and shelters them. When a Baka boy reaches initiation age, he is taken into the deep forest alone at night by the elders. He is told one thing clearly. If he fails, Jengi will eat him. What follows involves extreme physical punishment, prolonged isolation with no food or water, and deliberate psychological terror designed to break him down completely before building him back up. Boys have died during Jengi rites from physical exposure and the injuries inflicted on them. Women and uninitiated men are forbidden from knowing Jengi exists at all. If a woman accidentally witnesses any part of a Jengi ceremony, she has historically been killed on the spot to protect the secret. And on top of all of that, the Baka have been living under forced servitude imposed by neighboring Bantu farming communities for generations. Children automatically inherit their parents' bondage status at birth. Families who attempt to leave face violence. The world calls their forest a protected zone. The Baka call it a trap. Topok, iron currency. In 2024, a London auction house put a 5-foot iron spear up for sale. Starting bid $900. The label read Topoke Leganda Congo circa 1910. Everyone in that room looked at it out of curiosity. Not one of them knew it was forged by a man who could have had his hands cut off the same week he made it. The Congo Free State under King Leopold II killed an estimated 10 million Congolese people between 1885 and 1908. The system was forced rubber quotas. Every man in a given area had to deliver a fixed amount of rubber to Belgian overseers on a set schedule. Failed to meet your quota and your hands were amputated. Overseers were required to bring back the severed hands as proof. Women and children were taken hostage to guarantee the men complied. The Topok people of the Asangi territory were living directly inside that system when that spear was made. Now here is what that spear actually was. Topok blacksmiths forged these iron spears as currency for paying bride price. Around 1900, A single marriage cost between 40 and 50 of them. You could not carry that many alone. You needed your extended family and close friends to physically help carry your wealth to the wedding. Every single person there watched the full transaction happen in public. No way to hide what you were short on. No way to exaggerate what you were offering. Now here is the detail that stops economists cold. The iron was deliberately made soft, completely useless as a weapon or tool, because the value was never in the function. The value was in the skilled labor to make it and the physical effort to carry it. You could not manufacture that quickly. You could not fake it. The Belgians understood exactly what that meant, and they destroyed the entire system on purpose. Colonial records document the systematic confiscation and destruction of Leganda specifically to break community bonds apart and make men easier to conscript individually. Then it gets worse. Picasso, Braque, Matisse, all had direct access to Congolese masks, including Topoke region pieces, through Parisian dealers selling colonial looted objects after 1905. Art historians have traced specific elements of Cubism directly to those masks. Not one of those artists ever credited the source. The communities whose visual thinking helped launch one of the most celebrated art movements in Western history received nothing. That spear sold for $900. The paintings it helped inspire sell for hundreds of millions. Strange beetle. Look at this thing, a beetle, normal size, normal shape, except its entire shell is covered in eyes, and every single one of them just turned to face the camera at the same time. Digital artists confirmed it within minutes. Someone built this creature on a computer. It is not real, and it still makes your skin crawl anyway. A visual perception researcher at UC Berkeley explained exactly why. The human brain has a hardwired alarm that fires the moment it sees clusters of eyes grouped together. It fires automatically before your conscious mind has even finished registering what you are looking at. Here is why that alarm exists. Dangerous animals like king cobra, the blue-ringed octopus, and the poison dart frog all have one thing in common. Their skin displays tight clusters of circular patterns, spots, and eye-like markings across their bodies. All three of these animals are capable of killing a human being very quickly. Over a very long period of time, the human brain learned to recognize that specific visual pattern as a danger signal. The moment your eyes see it, your body reacts with fear before you have even consciously identified what you are looking at. That is not a choice. That is a biological reflex your brain developed specifically because the animals that carry that pattern are deadly. The CGI beetle triggers that exact same reflex. Fake or not, your brain sees the pattern and sends the alarm anyway. Glass mantis creature. This one does not scare you. It pulls you toward it, which is actually the more dangerous response. What you are looking at is a praying mantis built entirely from what appears to be clear crystal. Every joint catches light and scatters it in all directions. It looks like something between a living insect and a piece of expensive jewelry. It does not exist in nature. No entomology journal on Earth lists anything like it. It was built by a digital artist using software as part of a category of work called speculative biology. The idea behind speculative biology is straightforward. Take the rules of nature and ask what a creature would look like if an intelligent designer built it from scratch instead of leaving it to millions of years of random evolution. Then build that creature on a computer and release it online. And here is what happens every time. A curator at the Natural History Museum in London tracked how long visitors stood in front of different exhibits. In front of real insects, scientifically accurate and properly labeled, people would glance and move on. In front of fake glowing, fabricated specimens, people stopped and stared for 3 times as long. The conclusion is uncomfortable but consistent. We quickly lose interest in things we can identify and explain. But something beautiful that we have no category for, something that should not exist but looks completely alive, holds our attention completely. Mokele Mbembe skull. 2 men are standing in shallow river water the color of heavily creamed coffee. Both of them stopped moving and began staring down at the same thing. A skull sitting in the water wide enough to cover the entire hood of a full-size truck. Behind it, the vertebrae stretch back through the water like train cars disappearing into the distance. Jean-Pierre Mokoko has worked the Likuala River for 20 years. When he saw that skull, he did not call a scientist. He did not grab a camera. He did what his grandfather taught him. He called it mokele, the one who stops the flow of rivers, and he left tobacco at the water's edge before he took another step. His grandfather told him never to cast nets at that specific bend, not because of what might be living there, because that bend has been taking people for generations, and you do not approach it like it owes you anything. Researchers who studied Bantu river communities along the Congo found something that stopped them cold. Every location those communities mark as spiritually dangerous, every bend where rituals of acknowledgement are required before passing through, corresponds directly with a real physical hazard in the water: submerged rocks, methane gas venting up from the river floor, underwater currents that surge upward without warning. The danger is real. The tradition is a survival system built from generations of bodies. So when Jean-Pierre leaves tobacco at that bend, he is not talking to a creature. He is talking to everyone that water already took. It's like saying, we want to pull the skull out and run tests on it, as if asking for permission. They understand that disturbing it without that acknowledgement first is exactly how you become the next name that bend adds to its count. The Lega. Right now, somewhere in eastern Congo, a man is sleeping with a human skull pressed against his chest. The Lega people of eastern Congo have one of the most brutal systems of power ever documented anywhere on Earth. It is called the Bwami, and the higher you climb inside it, the closer you get to the dead. Literally. You do not apply to join the Bwami. You are assessed your entire life, years of sacrifice, years of demonstrated wisdom, years of watching other men fail and get stuck at lower levels permanently. Most Lega men die having never reached the top. The ones who do receive something that would make most people in the world back away slowly: the skull of a dead elder, pressed against their body, every day. In Lega belief, that skull is a functioning object. The dead man inside it is still active, still transmitting knowledge, protection, and judgment flowing directly from the decomposed elder into the living body of the man carrying him. The skull is a portal, and the man holding it is the receiving end. He walks through the market, sits at meals, sleeps at night with a dead man conducting power through his skin. And that is not even the most disturbing part. The sacred objects of the highest Bwami levels are called Lukwa Congo. Nobody outside the initiated is allowed to see them. The punishment for accidental exposure is not a fine or a warning. In one documented case, a woman glimpsed a Lukwa Congo by accident during a ceremony. She was expelled from her family immediately, stripped of every social tie she had, then subjected to a purification ritual so physically brutal that the researchers who later collected accounts of what happened to her noted she never fully recovered from it. Belgian colonial authorities threw everything they had at dismantling the Bwami because they recognized it held more actual power over Lega communities than any government ever could. They failed completely. So Western collectors took a different approach. They walked into villages and removed the sacred objects by force, gutting the spiritual infrastructure of entire communities in a single afternoon. Those objects are now displayed in museums across Europe with small, neat labels describing them as artifacts. The Bwami still runs. The initiations still happen, and the dead are still being carried through the living world by the men who earned the right to hold them. Hell creature. This clip starts in near darkness. You hear breathing first, slow, heavy, too close dot. Then something steps into a dim red light. It is tall and broad with horns rising from its head. Its eyes are completely black. No reflection, no life in them at all. People pulled it apart within hours. The fog came from a cheap machine anyone can buy at a Halloween store. The breathing sounds were lifted from a free audio website. One person built the entire costume in their garage, filmed it on their phone, and uploaded it that same night. But the design itself? That wasn't random. Over 1,000 years ago, during the spread of Christianity across Europe, church leaders had a problem. People were deeply attached to their old gods, so they made a decision. They redesigned them. They took features from existing deities, the goat legs from Pan, the antlers from forest gods, elements people once respected, and they combined them into one figure, the devil. The goal was simple: take what people love and make it terrifying. And it worked. Because now, centuries later, someone builds that same figure with basic tools, uploads it, and millions of people feel something instinctive. That reaction didn't come from the video. It came from history. Every culture places its fears somewhere real. Ancient Greeks placed monsters in forests because that's where danger lived. Today we place them in dark buildings, tunnels, and digital clips. The setting changes. The fear doesn't. Dogmen VHS tape. This footage looks like an old recording. Grainy, distorted, a timestamp reading 1993. 4 figures move through thick brush. Walking on 2 legs, but something is off. Their shoulders roll strangely. Their heads hang too low. Then you notice it. The heads don't look human. Experts confirm the truth. The timestamp is fake. The grain is added. It's modern footage made to look old. But here's where it gets strange. This idea isn't new. There was once a Christian saint depicted with a dog's head. Saint Christopher appeared this way in Byzantine and Eastern Christian art. Entire churches accepted it. He had a feast day. He was prayed to for centuries. And he wasn't alone. Stories of dog-headed men appear everywhere. Ancient maps, medieval texts, oral traditions across continents. A historian named Adrienne Mayers studied this pattern. She found something consistent. These creatures always appear at the edge of the known world, just beyond where people had actually been. That's the key. They weren't describing reality. They were marking the unknown. Today, we use filters and fake timestamps to make something feel real. Back then, they used creatures, different tools, same purpose, trying to give shape to what we don't understand. Baby duendes. This clip shows 5 tiny figures gathered around a broken sandal. They are small, quiet, almost childlike. One of them taps the strap again and again, like a bored child playing with whatever is nearby. At first, it feels harmless. But that changes once you understand what people believe these beings actually do. In the Philippines, these entities are called Enkanto. They are not treated like imaginary creatures. They are treated like invisible neighbors who exist alongside humans and control certain spaces in the natural world. The belief is very specific. Enkanto live in certain places like mounds of earth, trees, or rocks. When a person enters those spaces without acknowledging them, it is seen as an intrusion. And in some cases, the Enkanto are believed to take that person. This is where the fear comes from. And it needs to be very clear what take actually means. There are recorded cases collected by folklorists where a person disappears for hours, days, or even weeks. Search parties look for them and find nothing. Then suddenly, the person is discovered not far from where they vanished, sometimes in places that had already been searched multiple times. But when they return, something is wrong. They do not recognize their own family. They speak in strange or unfamiliar ways. They seem disoriented, confused, like they have just come back from somewhere that does not match this world. The belief explains it very directly. The person was not simply lost. They were taken into the Enkanto's world and then returned. And when they come back, their mind has not fully adjusted. That is why they seem confused. That is why they do not recognize people. It is not just memory loss. It is described as someone trying to reorient themselves after being somewhere completely different. This is why people say a phrase before stepping over certain places. Not as a form of politeness, but as a way to avoid being noticed at all. Now, when you look back at the clip, those small figures around the sandal stop feeling like harmless little creatures. They match something much more specific. Something people believe lives nearby, watches quietly, interacts with human objects, and in rare cases removes people from the world they know. So the fear does not come from how they look. It comes from what they are believed to do. Shaman and tree faces. This clip shows a woman walking slowly toward a large tree. Her hand is raised. She's whispering. There is something inside the tree. Look closer. Small faces, blinking, watching. Before you decide what that means, you need to understand the tree itself. It's a strangler fig. It starts life high in another tree. Then it grows roots downward, wrapping around its host. Over decades, it tightens, drains resources, and eventually kills it. The original tree rots away. What remains is a hollow structure shaped like the tree that used to exist. That hollow space, that's where the faces appear. In Amazonian traditions, especially among the Shipibo people, These are not decorations or illusions. They are understood as caretakers, not to be worshipped, not to be feared blindly, but to be respected. A health worker named explained it simply. You don't reach into the tree. You ask if the tree is healthy. If something responds, it means the forest is balanced. What makes this even more striking is this. Shipibo healers have identified plant medicines that modern science later confirmed to work. Their explanation? They learned it through communication with the plants. Whether you believe that or not, the results were real. And here's the part people overlook. Similar beings exist in completely different cultures. In Scandinavia, forest spirits. In Japan, tree spirits. In Africa, forest children. Different names. Same idea. Something lives in the natural world, and how you approach it matters. That's why the woman stops her hand just before touching the tree, because there's a difference between reaching in and being invited. Take one and leave 99? What does that mean? Send back and make far more clear why. All these. Corn thief with pig. This clip shows a cornfield at dusk, purple sky, quiet. In the middle of the field, something is crouched, wearing a straw hat, eating a single ear of corn. Next to it stands a pig, facing outward like it's guarding. To most people, it looks like something stealing. But a farmer named Elias Quisp saw it and immediately understood. It takes one, leaves 99. It takes one, leaves 99. That line is easy to misunderstand, so here is exactly what it means. If there are 100 ears of corn in the field, this being will take only one. It will not destroy the field. It will not take more than it needs. It leaves the rest untouched. So it is not a thief, it is part of a system. In Quechua understanding, this figure is a field keeper. It protects the crops. It keeps pests like rats away. It helps maintain balance in the field. The single ear of corn is not theft, it is payment. You allow it to take one because in return, it protects the other 99. That is the agreement. This idea connects to something much bigger. The Quechua people were able to farm extremely difficult mountain land for centuries. Their system was precise, balanced, and deeply connected to the environment. But when that knowledge system was destroyed during colonization, much of it disappeared. What survived did not remain in books or records. It survived in stories like this. The field keeper is not just a belief. It is a way of teaching a rule. Do not take everything. Leave part of the system intact, because that balance is what keeps the entire field alive. Now look back at the clip. The figure is not sneaking. It is not hiding. It is eating slowly, openly, like it has always done this. So the real question changes. Is it stealing one ear of corn? Or is it the